Welcome to Rat and Cat, where we search, survive, and explore. I'm Nakia. One of my viewers asked me how well these emergency bivvies work, emergency sleeping bags, and if I'd ever tried one, and I haven't. I've slept in an emergency blanket overnight, or at least spent a night in one. Slept part of the night. And yeah, but I've never tried one of the sleeping bags. So I've come out here on a deserted island in the middle of a river. There's kind of an abandoned campground out here that people rarely come to. It's going to be about 40 degrees tonight, and I'm going to test this sucker out and see how well it does. One of the first things I have to do is sneak up this hillside past a bunch of geese, Canadian geese that are nesting, and I'm going to try to avoid them as much as possible. Try to make one trip up there and not disturb them. It's getting dark here pretty quick too, so I'm probably going to end up setting up camp in the dark, which I don't like, but it's a perfect conditions. 40 degrees, a little bit drizzly here and there, mostly dry, but perfect weather to get hypothermia, which I don't plan not to do, but I'm really curious to see how well this bag works. So I've got some other gear here so that I don't get hypothermia, so that's good. And again, I'm trying not to disturb these. There's just geese all over here at the bottom. Just peek through over at the nest. There's several eggs in there. I don't know if you can see that. I don't want to get close. I know some birds will abandon their nest. So I'm just going to keep going. It's kind of a nice spot right here, but there's one at the very top of the island too. Here we go. This is it. I'm gonna try to lay this out here right out in the open. It's mostly flat. There's not really good flat places in here. There's some more protected, maybe a little bit more flat back there. There's also more pine cones. But I just really want this great view right here. I'll probably just build a fire here though and wait to really get into this later on. So I'm gonna work on a fire, just warm up and enjoy the evening. Hoping to use my saw, but with the pickings this easy. Whoa, hey, never mind. That's really wet. That smells good. Fresh pine. So this emergency blanket that I have wrapped around me right here is one that I've had for over 20 years. And it's the first one that I actually slept in. And the reason I slept in it is because I was leading out in a youth group on a camping trip. And I went through each person and checked that they had a sleeping bag. But we got up there and into the mountains, backpacking a couple miles in, ready for bed. Come to find out, two of the teens, a boy and girl, and early teens, they were going to share a sleeping bag, they said. Which is funny because, you know, number one, of course, you can't allow that on a youth outing. But also, it would be hilarious just to try to fit two people in a sleeping bag and sleep comfortably at night. Anyhow, I ended up loaning one of them my sleeping bag and using this tarp here. And I slept in it all night long. And, you know, it's actually lasted pretty good. It wouldn't hold the weather too good right now. It's got a bunch of little pinprick size holes all over it, but it actually would hold the wind pretty good, and it holds the heat pretty good still. And it might let a little moisture out actually, which could be nice. If you're in a really urgent situation where you're cooling down and you're really in danger of hypothermia, you're starting to shake uncontrollably, and you just can't warm up, there are several things you need to do. First of all, you need to change your clothes, get out of your wet clothes. Even if you have wicking clothes, if you're still wet in those, this is from my personal experience, it won't help if you've gone that far into hypothermia that you're starting to shake uncontrollably. You've got to get out of those wet clothes before you get into your sleeping bag. And, you know, even if that means that you're just naked in your sleeping bag, or your survival bag, unless that's just, it's not working for you and it's colder that way for some reason. But then you've got to get heat from a fire going, and shelter, protection from the wind. Make sure that you, even if you're just camping, make sure that you change your socks. Even if it's been a dry day, that is one of the things that will cool you down the most, is if your feet are still wet. So those are some of the things in my experience that will help you have a better night's sleep, and will just keep you warm. For the most part, these days I don't usually go camping by myself anymore. Just doing all these stories about missing people, I've really come to realize how potentially dangerous that is. However, I'm out here on this island, and there's really probably no bears out here or cougars. Could be, but it's very unlikely. There's deer and geese. The fact that the geese are nesting on this island says a lot on the ground there. So I'm not too concerned about that. But, I'm sleeping with my 45 here beside me, so I feel pretty safe. Starting to get a little chilly and a little tired, and I think I'm ready for bed. Since I have my old emergency tarp with me too, I'm going to put it down. I'm folding it in half. I'm putting the silver side down and up so that it'll reflect the cold down and the heat up. Then I'm going to put on my fleece pants and crawl into the sleeping bag and see how it goes. I'm pretty sure I'll be up in the middle of the night. I usually am at least once for a little while anyhow. So if I get too cold, I'll just build another fire later on. It's colder than I thought it was going to be. It's about 32 degrees. Right now I'm really feeling the cold coming from the ground the most. I may have to get pine needles. I'm gonna try it for a little bit though. The top of my body feels warm at this point. Mostly. We'll see. Got a sleeping, my real sleeping bag, summer sleeping bag, down to, what, 35 degrees here for my pillow. So that's good. All right. It's about 32, 33 degrees outside, and I've been in the sleeping bag for just about an hour, and at first it was warm enough, but I'm just cooling down here too much, and there's condensation building up on the inside of this so much that it feels wet when you wipe your finger across it. So I'm gonna get into my regular sleeping bag and see if I can go on this without a pad underneath me. That might just be too much cold from the ground here, but I'm gonna try that, and then yeah, see how that goes. I can tell this is better than that other sleeping bag. I'm starting to warm up a little bit, or I don't know. I can tell I'm not getting wet, but I feel like there's still some of my extremities are still cold and cooling, and it's really because this cold is radiating up through the ground here, and so that wasn't really completely unexpected. Part of survival is just being okay with discomfort. And so, like, I could probably just move around here and keep warm enough, just like I am, just alternating my extremities that are touching the ground. But I think I'm going to try to just get up, build a fire, saw some wood so I can warm my body up, warm my core up, pile up some pine needles on the bottom underneath me here, and then try it again. And then I'll probably use the solar blanket, or the bottom, my old one actually is a blanket over the top of me to radiate the heat down, but leaving it open so that it can still, the moisture can dissipate, so it's not all trapped inside underneath like a cocoon. Basically, the sleeping bag, the lightweight emergency sleeping bag, it's like sleeping in a rubber glove. You put your hand in a rubber glove, a medical glove, or a rubber glove for the kitchen, working in the kitchen or whatever, and it just, the condensation, before you know it, your hand is slippery wet because it's so much moisture is built up on the inside. And that's exactly what's happening with this other sleeping bag, the emergency sleeping bag that's ultra thin. It just won't breathe, and it just keeps all that moisture in, and which eventually cools you. I tried to go back to bed, but ultimately I did have to get a bed of pine needles down there to keep me warm, and it was a pretty tedious task. I thought there'd be a ton of bull pine needles here on this island, which there are, but to try to get the sticks out of them was quite the task in the middle of the night. But only had to build it up 2 inches, and it made quite a bit of difference. I haven't slept in an emergency bivvy in this cold of weather before, and I have to say that I really don't recommend the sleeping bag version of this at all. I've slept in my clothes in an emergency tarp with a reflective lining before, and that is able to breathe a little bit more. I was a little bit more comfortable with that, and if you're in warmer weather, you're going to be more comfortable with it even if you're wet. It is amazing how much it does reflect back. But I will say that the thing that worked the best for me was to sit right beside the fire with it open, kind of draped over my head with a kind of teepee tent style around me with it open towards the fire. That just really irradiated that heat inside. And it didn't even have to be a wide opening in front of me for the heat to come in from the fire. And just right at the level, being at the level of the fire, was by far more effective than any other method that I tried of just with my emergency tarp open or sleeping in this bag, or even with this on the bottom and my emergency fully clothed in my 35-degree bag. Were supposed to keep me warm. Evidently it's not quite that good, but usually I can keep pretty warm with this, but it's just that ground barrier. I always carry a ground barrier with me. It's not just a ground barrier, a pad that insulates me from the bottom. It's you've seen them, the inflatable kind or the closed cell. Either one make an amazing difference for keeping insulating that cold ground. But just like I said, an inch or so of pine needles worked as well. But man, I just cannot recommend this to you at all. And I'm going to make another shorter condensed review of this that isn't this whole field experiment just for other people if they don't want to watch all of this. But yeah, I'm glad I did it. Glad I tried that out, and I know what to do next time. If I'm out there and I'm cold, if for some reason caught unaware, I'm going to definitely build a fire and just use that tent style. What's your experience? Have you ever had to use an emergency bivvy or an emergency tarp to keep warm? Have you ever just experimented with one, practiced using it in case you're ever in that sort of situation? I want to hear from you, your stories about this. Until next time. So leave your comments below. I'm really tired. I want to hear your stories about your bivvies and emergency tarps below in the comments. I look forward to reading your stories all the time. And Till next time, this is Nakia. Get out there, be safe, enjoy the wild, like I try to do here on Rat and Cat.